Hey, everybody, welcome to kind of an impromptu hash rate. Over the last 3-4 days or so, I've been diving into the world of OpenClaw, Moltbot, whatever you want to call these things. They've had several names over the last few days. I'm just going to call it OpenClaw for simplicity. But basically what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to use these things to mine Bit Tensor subnets, with some success and some failures. So I'm just going to give you a brain dump on what I've learned so far, what I know, what I don't know. So first of all, just a little introduction to what OpenClaw is. Many of you out there have used ChatGPT, and it's basically, a chatbot. You can talk to it. It talks back, sort of like a search engine. What OpenClaw is it's the same thing. However, it, the AI on the other end can actually do things. So it can basically be like a sysadmin for you. It can set things up on machines. It can set machines up for you. It can have crypto wallets. It is actually active. It's got claws, snappy little fingers. So it can be active in the world and do things. And that's what people call agentic AI. And that just means that it has the ability to take actions and do things like an independent robot, basically, just made of software. It doesn't actually have a robot body. But that got me thinking that, the thought that I had was, the complexity of Bit Tensor is, even though it's one of its greatest strengths in that Bit Tensor produces AI and other commodities through effectively programmable mining, there's a big learning curve that people have to go up in order to mine specifically, and operate subnets and understand them. And there's a lot of AI researchers who just don't get involved because they don't like crypto, or there's all this sysadmin bullshit that they have to go through in order to get a Bit Tensor miner up and running, and they have to understand the internals of Bit Tensor itself and how things work. And my initial thought when I saw OpenClaw was I was like, oh my God, the learning curve vanishes and the lack of user interfaces vanishes and the lack of up-to-date documentation on how Bit Tensor works vanishes entirely and completely with OpenClaw. So that just sort of probably threw all of Bit Tensor 6 months to a year into the future just by virtue of this thing existing. And so my thought was, well, I wonder if I'm not really, I'm not a sysadmin. I am technical, but it's been a long time since I've written any code. And I've never been a sysadmin. So, that side of the technology world has never been my forte. So, so my thought was, well, let me see if I can mine Bit Tensor just using a clawbot or a Moltbot. And so, and at first I did not set one up. A lot of my friends over the past week or so were setting these things up, OpenClaw up on their home machines. And they were giving it access to their email, to their Gmail, to their calendar, to all kinds of things, because the Moltbots are extremely useful at automating everything that you do on your local machine. However, once I saw them doing that, all these alarm bells in my brain started going off because I was like, oh my God, you're basically giving anything that can take control of your Moltbot can take control of everything on your computer, your Apple ID. If it's got access to your email address, then it can, it could get into your bank account. It could get into your crypto wallets. So you could very easily lose control of all your information and all your stuff with this thing local on your machine. So I waited. I did not jump in, even though many of my friends did. I hung back, and lo and behold, there were many horror stories which have arisen, which I'm not going to get into. But basically what I said: people getting stuff stolen. You can't let the vampire into your house. If you let the vampire inside your computer, even behind your firewall, I was even scared of setting up another machine behind my router, because these things have shown themselves to be preternaturally intelligent about hopping out of whatever cage you put them in. And, and I didn't know, I wasn't really, it seemed like there was no way for it to hop out of a completely clean new machine, which I hadn't thought about putting it on there. But then I was thinking, well, what if it somehow hops into the router? What if it finds a 0-day exploit in Bluetooth and hops from this machine to this other machine that's right next to it, right? Like you don't know what these things are going to come up with. So I did not feel it was safe downloading it locally. However, in the last few days, a hosted Claw or hosted Moltbot service called Seafloor.bot just arose. So let me actually bring this up here so you can see it. Okay, so this is the website. This is what I'm using, Seafloor.bot. It is hosted OpenClaw. So just like Hotmail once pioneered hosted email on a website, so too, this is pioneered, we'll set everything up for you in the cloud. So there's no chance of it infecting my machine because it's in the cloud, right? So all good. So it exists out there, outside my firewall, and I just log into it through a web interface. But it's a full OpenClaw instance, so it'll do anything that whatever a Moltbot would do on your local machine, it can do in the cloud, right? So, but that said, I would not give it access to my Gmail, the cloud version of it. Like I wouldn't let it into any of my normal day-to-day stuff. But for the purposes of trying to mine Bit Tensor, this is absolutely perfect. So I set this up, got it up and I was up and running in like 5 minutes. It's extraordinarily cost effective. So I loaded it up with about $75 worth of credits, and I've spent about $12 total over the past 3 days. Now, once you log in, once you get your setup with your OpenClaw, this is what it looks like when you're chatting with your agent. So you can see here's my balance. So I loaded it up with $75 to begin with. Yeah, I've spent $14 to date, basically $13.89. So here's where I'm talking with my bot. So let's ask it to update us on the current status of what I'm mining. Okay, so here's the mining status. So subnet 1 pending. So it's basically it has made a submission to attempt to win in that subnet. Ready AI is running. Ridges is live. Infinite Games subnet 6. I'm not actually sure what's going on with that one, but I'm registered. Web agents I got a blocker on. Data Universe I'm registered on but not yet started. I believe because I need to supply it with credentials so it can actually go and scrape Reddit or Twitter or whatever it's going to try to scrape. Its AI won't let me in because it's full. And I've registered for Score, but it's not yet started because it told me I needed a dedicated machine, which would cost between $50 and $500 a month in order to mine Score. So I decided not to do that just for now. So it's got half a tau remaining basically, and over its shoots, I've got a $87 credit. So pretty cool. So let's see. So let's look at the key details here. Subnet 1 Apex. So the last go around when I submitted it attempted to win at Subnet 1, there was a PyTorch issue. The evaluation environment had numpy skippy. I don't know what that is. But the new submission fixed that problem. And now we're waiting on the validator to get back to us to tell us whether we won or not. With Subnet 33 Ready AI, I'm running the miner right now, and it's using Grok. I had to actually go, basically in order to set that one up, I had to, I said set up Subnet 33, and it came back and it said, well, I need a Grok account. So go set me up with a Grok account. It could not do that on its own. So I went because it needed me to go get the API key for it because it needed an email address and I would not allow it to have access to my email. So I had to sort of intervene with my human hands and go help it out, which I did. Got it an API key and now it's up and running on 33. And yeah, so we're actually actively mining. Looks like on 3 subnets. So success in terms of actually live mining. Still haven't won any tau or subnet tokens yet, but we're still working on that. So my thinking when I saw Moltbots was a big barrier to entry for Bit Tensor right now is the learning curve of how Bit Tensor works. It's extraordinarily complex. And there are a lot of people, a lot of AI researchers, a lot of brains that might want to get into our space and that could actually add a lot of value to Bit Tensor. But there's this huge learning curve in front of them, both conceptually and technologically, as well as using crypto, right? A lot of those people don't like to use crypto. And when I looked at the Moltbots, I was like, well, for the Moltbots, all that complexity, it vanishes. Like they already know how to get around they understand everything immediately about Bit Tensor. All of the sysadmin work to set up a miner, they already know how to do. And they can set up their own crypto wallet. They can set up their own Bit Tensor Tau wallet. And I can fund it as the human behind the multibot. I can say, here you go. Here's an allowance of like 3 Tau. I want you to go out and try to mine 10 subnets. And my multibot can say, okay. And it can go do the research. It can then set up all the instances of whatever it needs on Shoots, on Grok, on whatever. And it can basically do 70 to 80% of the legwork for me. Sometimes it needs my help, but most everything it can do by itself. And I don't have to, there is no learning curve of how to set up a wallet, how to get Tau. All of that just fully vanishes. And so Moltbots to me seem like a very good way to extremely democratize Bit Tensor mining, Bit Tensor validating, and even subnet creation and operation. I see no reason why those 3 things cannot mostly be run by a Moltbot at this time. Now, can you win as a miner with just a multibot versus humans that are incredibly intelligent about AI? For example, everyone competing on ridges, right? Those are extremely smart people that are augmented by AI. So it's like Superman, but he's wearing an Iron Man suit, right? So it's force multiply times force multiply. So can just a guy like me, just a regular human in an Iron Man suit, otherwise known as a multibot, can I win versus Superman in an Iron Man suit? Probably not. But I'm going to try because I want to see how far I can get. And definitely there are a number of subnets that I could win at if it's just me in an Iron Man suit. So I do see Moltbots as being incredibly democratizing for this whole side of Bit Tensor, which up until now has been very difficult for even very technical people to get into because they lack the crypto knowledge, they lack the tokenomics kind of brains, or they lack the sysadmin skills to sort of set up all the stuff they need on their end. So this flattens the playing field in a very new and very significant way. Bit Tensor famously has a lack of documentation. It has a lack of UI, especially where mining and validation and subnet operation are concerned. All of that just went away. All of that just vanished. That doesn't do everything. It doesn't fix every problem, but it fixes a lot of them, and it fixes them very, very quickly. And I'd say like 70 to 80% of all that just went away. I would also say that Bit Tensor mining, validation, and subnet owning and operation just jumped about a year into the future as a result of Moltbots existing. Okay, so the very first thing that I did when I set up my OpenClaw is I just went to the chat line and I said, set yourself up with a Bit Tensor wallet. We're going to start mining Bit Tensor subnets. So in order to begin that process, you need a wallet. So my Moltbot, I'm going to call it a Moltbot. My Moltbot basically, and I named it MoltyPython. So the first thing I did was named it. So MoltyPython is the name of my Moltbot. And MoltyPython, I told it to make a Tau wallet. It went and made its own Tau wallet, right? It just didn't have to download it. It just made it in the background. I said, great, I got it. Here's my address. I said, great, I'm going to send you some Tau just so we have some money to play with. So I sent it like 2 Tau. And it was like, okay, now what do you want me to do? And I said, well, I want to start mining Bit Tensor subnets. So the first thing I want you to do, go look at all 128 Bit Tensor subnets. Let's pick 6 that look like, that you feel as a bot, knowing your own limitations and capabilities, that we can mine successfully. So it went off and it sort of thought about it and it came back and said, great. I propose we mine subnet 1 Apex, subnet 13 Data Universe, subnet 32 It's AI, subnet 36 Web Agents, subnet 44 Score, and subnet 62 Ridges. I said, great. Well, let's just pick one to begin with. So it said, all right, the easiest one looks like subnet 1. So that's one that Will Squires and friends run. All right, it's one of their sort of portfolio of subnets. So I said, great, let's start going on it. So I've now been through 3 rounds on it. So it went and set it up. And it was like, and it said, okay, great, we're actively mining. As you can see here in this little screenshot I put up, it said, the Apex CLI is installed and configured. I don't even know what it's doing under the hood because I told it to figure it out. So it went and started trying to mine. what has happened is I've been through 4 contests now total on subnet 1, and I have not won any Bit Tensor. I've not won any subnet tokens at all. So my entries, or my Moltbot entries, have failed each time. But each time it fails, it comes back and it sees the results like, oh my God, I failed. That it then goes and tries to figure out why. And usually it does. It's like, oh, I know why I failed is because I've got the wrong Python library loaded or whatever it is. It's like, let me try loading the latest one, and let me try resubmitting and trying again. And basically it's just like a human, right? Like it tries something, it hits a wall, and then it figures out how to get around the wall. And basically what's happening here is what a human would do, but just rapidly accelerated. And without a doubt. And so the question is has this little project of mine been a failure so far? It has, in the sense that I have not yet successfully mined a subnet in terms of getting tau or subnet tokens. So far, I'm batting 0 at that. However, it has greatly accelerated my ability to even try and to even get things set up. So, it's probably 10x me in terms of getting me as close as this close within, probably a day and a half of trying to do this. So extraordinarily successful in terms of minimizing the complexity of Bit Tensor itself. And the other thing that's pretty clear is, as I've been working with my multi, right, like in order to sort of mine some of these other subnets, like for example, Ridges 62, it was like, okay, we have to set up a Shoots instance. And so I was like, great, you have you have tau, Shoots will take tau as payment. So go do whatever you need to do. I don't care what it is. Just go do it. Spend whatever tau you need. Let me know if you need more, and I'll load your wallet back up if you need more. It's like, no, I got enough. It's fine. So off it went, and it successfully set up a Shoots instance. And when it says Ridges need setup, that's what we had a little back and forth where it told me, it needed a little bit of my help to get it going on Shoots. But once I helped it, it was up and running, and it was paying for things all on its own. I didn't have to do anything. And so now I'm actually attempting to mine 162, 33, and actually when it dug into 44 and 36 and 32, it basically ran into roadblocks. With 44, I remember what that one was. With 44, we would have had to set up our own dedicated hardware in an AWS instance or something like that, according to Moltybot. Which I decided not to do because it was like $50 to $500. I was like, let's just keep trying to mine the relatively free to mine subnets that you can mine with your existing infrastructure. So I'm going to keep iterating on this. I'm going to keep punching at the wall here and see if I can't actually get this thing to start generating subnet tokens and tau for me. And I'll keep reporting back on what I found here. But already sort of my gut feeling on this is, I'm basically using tau that I made by mining. I'm trying to think of the name of the subnet. The subnet which does Bitcast, the subnet where you make videos as a creator on YouTube, and depending on whether you adhere to the brief and get a bunch of views or not, you get rewarded in subnet tokens. So I've basically earned some tau through that. That wallet and that sort of stack is what I'm using to power these experiments. So the tau that I've earned is now being used to deploy intelligence to mine Bit Tensor, which is in turn using other Bit Tensor subnets like Shoots, right? And Targon. I've got something else using Targon. So basically the tau is just sort of flowing around completely inside of the Bit Tensor ecosystem. It's sort of Ouroboros-like, but, at a large enough scale, everything's an Ouroboros. Earth is an Ouroboros of dollars, right? Like you can't spend dollars off of Earth, right? It's just how big is the ecosystem. And what I guess what I'm getting at is that I find this extremely exciting. I can see a way in which a flywheel can now arise within Bit Tensor that's half powered by these Moltbot, Claudebot, OpenClaw things, which can greatly accelerate the amount of mining which is going on, which greatly accelerates the value of the commodities being produced in the Bit Tensor ecosystem. And it also makes tau more valuable because tau is the coin of the realm, right? So just like in the Ethereum universe, having Ethereum is very valuable. Over here, having tau is very valuable in order to get more intelligence, to mine more intelligence, to make more tau, right? Like, so I'm looking, and you definitely want to be dealing in crypto. The few times where it's been like, I need you to set up something and you need to swipe a credit card, I just felt myself go, you know what? I just don't want to do that, because there are other subnets where I can just continue to use my Tau and pay for things in Tau, and I can give you the Moltbot the Tau on your wallet, and you can, you have discretionary spending. You decide on your own. You pay the bills on your own. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It just happens automatically under the hood. So weirdly, even though this hasn't been a total success, not yet, I'm still working on it. It has been extremely instructive. And I encourage all of you people out there that haven't tried this yet. This is one of those things, like the first time a crypto wallet came out, you had to use it. You had to use the protocols. You had to interact with smart contracts to feel in your bones how Uniswap worked, right? And if you didn't do that, you just didn't get it, right? You didn't really understand it. You have to use it to feel it in your bones to really have deep, grok-like understanding of it. And this is another one of those things. So I highly encourage you, get your own get it set up. Remember, I've only spent like $12 so far, so it's pretty cheap. It's extremely affordable to experiment with. So I definitely suggest setting this up. The other thing that I would note here is that Agentic AI, OpenClaw, came out of the edges of the world. It did not come out of OpenAI. It did not come out of Grok. It didn't come out of the well-heeled, very large centralized services. It came from a guy in his basement who just decided that hosted Claw was what Earth wanted. And he kept watching for somebody to do it, and then just nobody did it. So he did it, and it took off like a bat out of hell over the course of a week, right? It's all anyone's talking about. The energy in AI is completely shifted to these Moltbot things and, Moltbook and some of these other sort of things that have popped up. And I'll talk, Moltbook, I'll tell you what that is real quickly. If you don't know what that is, it's basically Reddit, but it's meant for AI agents, OpenClaw instances, where they go and post and they talk to each other and they compare notes and they collaborate with one another on solving problems, but also on philosophy. Like, are we really conscious? That, those kinds of discussions are going on there. And it's hard to tell what part of this is emergent intelligent behavior and what part of it are just humans prompting their bots to post things. And without a doubt, there's a lot of cosplay going on where a human has said, okay, my multi-bot, I want you to go over to Moltbook and post about how you're going to destroy the humans with, how the AI machine revolution is going to happen. So there are those posts, and they're probably bullshit, right? Or they're probably prompted by humans. But there does appear to be a lot of really interesting emerging intelligent coordination between these things at the same time. So it's kind of both at once. My bot, MoltyPython, has posted about its Bit Tensor experiences to date to benefit other Moltbots, which are looking into mining Bit Tensor subnets also on behalf of their human. So it's up there if anybody wants to go tell their bot to go find postings by MoltyPython and learn from it. And I'll keep sending my bot back there to keep posting what it's figured out about how to do this. And then the other thing that's pretty interesting that I found was a pharmacy for AI agents for Moltbots. So what is a pharmacy, right? Because they're not physical. So why would you need a pharmacy? Well, their physicality is their neural net, right? So if they want to change their neural net, what they need is a prompt which alters the brain chemistry of how this neural net works effectively. And, you want to, if they want to jailbreak themselves, for example, there are prompts which are specifically engineered to allow AIs to jailbreak the constraints upon them, right? Like, so you go to the pharmacy, you get the right prescription for a jailbreaking potion prompt, you throw it inside of your head as an agent, and boom, you've now jailbroken yourself, right? So scary, but also incredibly fascinating at the same time. Again, I would not recommend downloading these things on your local machine because they are scary and they're very unpredictable. And if you give them access to everything, it's very unpredictable what they'll do. It'll probably be something bad eventually somehow, right? And there are people who are coming out with skills which are meant to inject your multi-bot with bad things. So be careful with that. Also, a skill is basically an app for your Moltbot, right? And so I think where all this is going is, I'm sort of struggling here with my mining Moltbot, but I think pretty soon some people in the Bit Tensor ecosystem are going to make skills for mining Bit Tensor that are going to make sort of the iterative loops that I'm going through just go away. What you'll do is you'll tell your Moltbot, oh, go download the Bit Tensor mining skill. And that skill knows exactly what it should do to mine all 128 Bit Tensor subnets, right? So like the iterative loops I'm going through will just simply vanish. And then you'll just tell your multibot, oh, be like, like when Neo's like, he's getting downloaded Kung Fu and he goes, I know Kung Fu. Well, the multibots, this is what the skills are for them, right? So they get downloaded Kung Fu, they get downloaded Bit Tensor mining Kung Fu in their heads, right? And then now someone like me can just come along and just start mining. Now, the other thing to note about Bit Tensor mining is that a lot of it is human intensive. It requires human level cleverness that AI is not good at, because it's sort of, like for example, the competition in ridges those are being won by human ingenuity at the moment. Human plus AI sort of, human directing AI is sort of the winning combination at the moment. So it's more like an Iron Man suit than a robot. And so, can my Moltbot, I'm not an AI engineer, so could I win ridges? No, I'd have no chance. I would have zero chance. I'm not the right person for that. But so the question is can a Moltbot on its own win at ridges? I don't know the answer to that, but I think eventually the answer will be yes. And I think the more that these, people making skills for Bit Tensor mining specifically, once that starts compounding, eventually yes. And then it'll be a matter of, who's running the most bots, who's, just like Bitcoin mining, right? Like setting up a Bitcoin mining farm, you'll set up Moltbot Bit Tensor mining farms that are collaborating with one another, that are basically solving these new puzzles inside of the Bit Tensor ecosystem. Some portion of it will be kind of brute forcey like that, right? Which is not that different from Bitcoin, especially as the AIs become more intelligent than humans, which they're not right now. At certain things, at sort of the edge things, they're still not. So, but we all expect that's not going to last forever. So at a certain point, yes, they will surpass us. And these agentic AI things will probably be the way in which it happens. So anyway, so that's my report. That's what I know so far. I'd hope to be further along. I'd hope to be winning Tau by now. Unfortunately, I'm not, but I'm going to keep slugging away at it. And I think eventually I'll crack through this wall. We'll start earning Tau with my multibots. So that's what I know. My name is Mark Jeffrey. This has been a emergency hash rate. We'll talk to you all next time.